Hi everyone! Happy Wednesday! I hope everyone is having an awesome week. I am in the studio, as you can see, just starting to get my studio work done. But I wanted to hop on here because we did a live last week that everyone enjoyed, my neighbor Adriana and I. So we decided that we were going to go ahead and do another one today. So she will be hopping on here in a second, but we are super excited, especially if you are creative. If you are an artist yourself, whether a musician or a visual artist, go ahead and comment down below and let us know what you do, because we love hearing from fellow creatives, hearing about their talents, and even if you just appreciate the arts, go ahead and comment and let us know. Here in a second, she should be connecting. We're always sharing the same Wi-Fi, so sometimes it that. There she is. Hello.
Hello.
How are you? Alrighty. So again, we are going to, I know we were talking earlier about when we actually met, which is a story we will share with you guys on Instagram for another time. But we were kind of like reminiscing on some of the few first things that we bonded over, and this book came up, so we thought we would go ahead and share it. So Adriana, how did you hear about this book? Because this is basically what started my creative path, and you were like, you need to buy this book instantly. How did you find it?
I was just browsing for art business or creative business books on Amazon. I kid you, and that's how I encountered it. I read the reviews on it. I saw, people say great things about it. Somebody, I think, had taken pictures of the inside of the book.
Oh, I love when people do that. Those are like the best reviews. You're like, okay, what does it actually look like?
And once I saw some of those, I took the plunge. And yeah, I definitely had once I got my hands into it. But I'll let you hear all about it that you love.
Oh,
I could go on all night.
no, both of us. So if people are on here, again, if you are creative, this is a book that I would highly suggest, especially to visual artists, but more so any creative entrepreneur, because when you first get started on your creative journey or trying to treat your practice like a business, it can be super overwhelming as to where to start. And I feel like Mind Your Business does the great job of doing what Adriana and I were both kind of trying to do on our own, like establishing priorities of like, people tell you you need like a business name and a logo and you file for taxes, but you have to have like a visual aesthetic that's cohesive and making products that you like, and like there's so many things to do and you don't know what order to do them in. And this book is super helpful. I can go ahead and thumb through some of the pages real quick, but this alone, I mean, hello.
Nice to look at.
But this is like the outline of it. I'm not sure if you guys will be able to read it, but it's basically talking about like the introduction, what's your big picture vision for what you want to create, building your brand, marketing, finding your people, and it really breaks it down step by step. And I think my favorite thing is like it's a workbook oriented book. So each area, like this is even like a mind map of like drawing out your website. It talks about the cons of various platforms and how to make decisions, like where you should go. So it's very beautiful, very helpful, and it makes the whole process so approachable that like by the end of the book, you basically have the foundation of your business and you're like ready to go. So I highly recommend. I am so glad that you suggested this to me, Adriana, because also Elena Griffo is just like super sweet. If you don't follow her on Instagram, like go follow her, because she always posts the nicest stuff and she's so sweet. And yeah, all of her stuff is just beautiful. I love it so much.
Yeah, it is. And that's definitely a book. I have no idea how many people have recommended it to it by now, but especially if you are a person that is, even if you're only starting to think about having a creative business, maybe you're not ready yet, and you do have a day job that you'd like to go away from and shift into a creative business, that book literally, I mean, it's just so helpful, because instead of all this overwhelming, where do you even start, it can help break down what some of the things, are behind what goes into your brand and turning that side gig into your full-time gig. So super highly recommended, very flexible. You don't have to be a visual artist for it. It's basically any creative business. It should work for that one.
It's so funny looking back at this too and like seeing the things that I wrote down. So you suggested this to me probably October 2019. Obviously, a lot in the world has changed. A lot has changed for you and me, but it's funny going back and even looking of like, oh, this was something that I could only even dream of a year and a half ago. And I'm like, oh, like I've done that, working on this, or like I completely crossed that idea off. That was terrible. Like, but at least having that opportunity to write down your vision and really crystallize it was super helpful. Because once you write it down, then you can start taking action on it. Otherwise, it can just get very overwhelming, or you just get paralyzed by like not knowing where to start and don't do anything about it.
Exactly. But that one, definitely recommend it. Now, if you are a visual artist, especially painters, sculptors, potters, I don't know, just anybody that's something a little bit more, that maybe like more tangible, like that other book can work, like if you're a digital artist or, you know, you do lettering, things like that. But if you wanted a little bit more focus, more on the fine art side of things, this would have to be my recommendation. And I believe it is out of print, but I was able to find some copies on Amazon. There's also a Kindle version that's economical. But what I would suggest is you definitely go for the 10th anniversary edition. There's some older ones floating about, but this one I think was revised just a few years ago. So it's definitely the most relevant one, especially social media and things like that. And then, fun fact, so at one point in my life, when I was younger, I thought I was going to be a librarian. I don't mark books. I made an exception with this one. I can't
No.
Highlighting has gone into this. It is an erasable highlighter though, so I will say that. It's the only way I could bring myself to mark the book. But okay, this book, the tagline of it, this is why I think it's just the gem. You just have to have this. The Artist's No Excuse Guide to Self-Promotion. And the way that Allison Stanfield, the author of this book, has written it out, I mean, it literally has a table of, instead of table of content, I don't know if you can read that, it says table of excuses. And I'll just give you a few. Obviously, you know, you can go into this in more detail, but like, for example, I don't want to bother people is like an artist's excuse, right? Of why they not like send out communications. So she breaks it down into staying in touch with your email subscribers and then how to communicate with your audience in other ways. And she basically breaks it down of like, this is your excuse. I've heard this many times. Does it sound like you? If so, no judgment. It's okay. But this is how you get around it. And then it ends with like action items for you to take. I mean, there's a whole chapter or part of the chapter where it's like, artist statement. Oh my gosh, super mega deep dive into artist statement. I mean, I just think it's fantastic. I mean, it's the kind of book that's like, it's gonna get earmarked, it's going to get highlighted. It's almost like a reference book in a way. And again, because it's more specific, you still have action items. It still has areas where you can write notes if you'd like, but definitely the kind of book that it's like, oh, I don't know how to do this. Okay, hold on, let me check. And
right.
Focus towards visual artists. It's not like some bogus thing on the internet that may or may not work for you that somebody recycled for something from another industry. Like it's actually specific.
Yeah, and that one too, it's almost like not like a second level to this one because they're both valuable. This is like for like getting your systems in place and getting started. And then it's almost like, especially for the chapters like that are like, this is how you write an artist statement. And she'll show like various examples and 100%, like there's so many styles to do it, but she just shows her method as to why she does it the way she does. And even things like how to structure your resume, which are like very like practical things to know, which then after doing the assignments in this book where you're like, okay, now you have your website, what the heck kind of text do I put on it? You almost use that book and everything in that on things that you built with this. So I would definitely suggest almost like this book first to kind of like cast the vision. But that book is super good, especially for those intimidating things that most artists have trouble with, of like writing about your art, more so diving into like the wording and the branding, email marketing, all of that. Not as fun stuff for most artists, but it really like makes it not intimidating, which is nice.
Exactly. So I feel like, I mean, depending what stage you're in, if you have a day job, art is on the side, you're not sure, which is fine. It is totally fine, but you're not sure if you want to turn your art into an actual business, much like business, then I say start with Mind Your Business. I mean, that sounded redundant, but I'd say start with the Mind book because they'll just take you step by step. And a lot of what it covers is applicable to any kind of creative business, whether it's art or not. And then now if you're set and you know for sure, I mean, they're both inexpensive books, by the way, so you're not. But if you're more like, okay, I know I want to pursue a fine art career, you know, that you're building on your own, then right. Definitely say get both at the very least. You know, if it's fine that, or if you're already established artist, get this one. Like if you've already set up you already know what your audience looks like, you've already created your tax ID, like you're farther along in in your path, then at the very least, then get this one. So both I think are excellent. This one too, something I really like. By the way, this is unpaid advertisements, so let me just say this real quick. We're not getting
talk about them all the time, so we figured we would share.
$, just so you know. Another thing about this one that I like, the author of this one actually has a podcast called Artifice Podcast. Allison, please don't kill me if you see this. And she has services and things on her website you can check out, but this also links to different like worksheets and things on her site, which I thought was actually really nice to have like downloadable complement. But I mean, I enjoy the podcast too. So that's where you get the newer stuff. But yeah, you can definitely this book. But we both had our main book, but we have ideas for other books we want to talk about.
Yeah, and I'd say these two books are very like action-oriented books. They're very much like, here's the concept, digest it, now take this, and this step, which is super nice when you're first getting started. But you and I are both huge fans of like mindset and other business books too, which I think we're gonna run out of time today because there's a time limit on these lives, but we will come back another time because literally this book changed my life. And I've been messaging her on Instagram. She is so sweet. We will tag her below too. But so it's called Hustle and Float, Reclaim Your Creativity and Thrive in a World Obsessed with Work. So especially if you're like a type A person who's also a creative, 100% I suggest getting this. If you're trying to balance your day job and a creative practice, 100% I suggest this, because the biggest takeaway is also just analyzing the creative process, and how the creative process and trying to stay strict with like a schedule and the modern economy and capitalism, like they're counterbalance each other, like they fight each other, but then we blame ourselves for not being productive enough, not making enough stuff, where it's this like completely takes down the system, goes into history, and literally it's so good. I read it right before the pandemic, which was probably the best thing that could ever happen to me. So highly recommend. And what was the book you were going to suggest mindset-wise?
Mindset-wise, I've really enjoyed reading Keep Going, 10 Ways to Stay Creative in Good Times and Bad. Hello, pandemic, bad. Austin Kleon. I really like his books and how small, I mean, look how little it is. They're small, they're short, they have like graphics and, I mean, just fun stuff in it. Yeah. This one, I mean, it just has different things. one of the things I like about it the most, or that speaks to me the most, is it does talk about creative cycles and how instead of beating yourself up, like, I'm not feeling inspired right now, or this did not turn out the way I expected it to, or, oh, nobody, like, you know, bought all the things, etc. It just basically tells you got to keep going. Like, not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's okay. Here's some of the things you're going to encounter, and here's some ways to get around them. But very easy to read, practical, fast, something you can just grab at any point and just, like, jump in at any page. You know, there's a lot of cool graphics and things that are posted, if you will.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you for hopping on here. Comment below if you've ever read any of these books, or if you decide to purchase them. We would love to hear what you guys have to say. We'll hold up both of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got to get painting. It's my painting
too, on books that you think we absolutely have to read. We're both
we both have like running list of books, creative, business, entrepreneurial. So if you have any good book suggestions, comment them below or send us, either of us, a DM, because our Amazon carts are full already, but there's always room.
The book wish list.
I think, yes, we both have a wish list.
And we'll catch you guys. Should we do this again next week? What say you?
Why not? We'll both anyway.
Live soon. All right.
Bye, guys.